family described to me that he was told by the coroner that he was standing somewhere on the step, that there was a pair of pliers in the socket and a hammer involved, that he would have had to hold this to his head and the hammer hit this, which entered, we know that the bullet entered the right temple. If you look at the stairwell, it's not very wide. And I know for certain where the body lay because I interviewed the gentleman that actually was the first man on the scene. And he tells me that Mr. King was laying backward, his right hand grasping the hammer, lay there, and his left hand laying here, open, and that his legs were fully extended off the stairwell.
And was this contraption found here too?
No, I don't know that yet. However, to have the body, the head, and you can see where the body lay, to have the body lay there, he was a large man. And for this to occur, you have a window here. So you're going to think the throw, can there be enough force with a hammer to cause that projectile to fire? That we don't know. Could it happen? Yes. But in my investigation, I also determined that 2 years ago, Mr. King had a major accident here on the ranch. He fell out 25 feet out of a tree, and he landed on his head and landed on his arm. He had significant injuries to his right hand, fractured fingers, fractured wrist, and majorly fractured forearm. We found out he had a very large problem grasping items. So you would have to have a very good grasp on this hammer with such force, and just try doing this and firing that bullet straight into your temple.
And for those of us, if you don't mind just recapping, what is the theory that the Sheriff's Department put forward? Because a lot of it's this we've never heard of this kind of thing. So what is it that the Sheriff's Department, if you can just show us, what is it that they claim happened?
I am told by the family member that the theory was he had taken a 270 bullet, put it in here, had soldered something on the end of it, and again did this.
So it doesn't have to make contact with the head, it just causes it to fire.
You have to make contact with the primer that fires the bullet.
And that's how, it's like a gun.
Yes, and it is possible. It clearly is possible.
But do you think it happened?
Well, where the body lay, and the fact that the hammer was of grass, we know that this door was open. I mean, I interviewed the gentleman that was first here. There were actually 3 parties here. 2 at a distance of about 25 to 30 feet, young ladies, they were scared. But this gentleman came up and actually touched them. He thought he had had a heart attack. He saw no blood whatsoever. And it was rainy and cold that afternoon. I interviewed another gentleman that lived here. And he said between 3 and 3:30 p.m. he heard 3 gunshots. Now from here, his trailer was directly that direction about 100 yards. He said his dog jumped up on his lap, he came outside, and he heard 2 more gunshots. Didn't think anything of it. He was sick that day, and he went back into the home, and it wasn't until 8 p.m. that the sheriff showed up and knocked on his door to interview him. Also in my investigation, I determined the gentleman that heard the gunshots also has guns available, and he knew Wayne very well. There was also guns in the home, which is owned by the property owners, and Wayne had access because they were gone on out of town. So why go through I question why go through all this when you have access to guns within 100 yards of your residence? And that's where we are today. I have not interviewed the sheriff or the coroner yet, which I intend to do.
And is he okay where he's standing? Can I ask him one more question while he's there, Dennis?
Yeah.
Does this look good? Do you mind sharing what your theory is? What do you think happened to him?
I haven't concluded that yet, but I'm a former police officer, and I have been to many suicides, 2 that actually occurred in front of me, and both times they were armed with a gun, and each time when they fired that bullet, the hands opened and the weapon fell, one on the chest and the other one to the ground, and they immediately dropped. I question here, if he was shot this way, why didn't the body fall this way and roll down here on the ground? It just ended up perfectly here. I really question that. But again, I'm still looking into the fact that how much velocity comes out of something made like this, and that's to be determined.
Do you fear that he was targeted and that he was shot by someone else?
It's a possibility. It's clearly a possibility. But there needs to be more investigation, and that's what I'm doing with the 2 other investigators.
And I guess my last question, what do you hope that the Sheriff's Department does? Because I know their investigation is closed, so what are your hopes?
My hope is that we can come up with enough information here to perhaps they'll reopen this case. And I intend to see the sheriff, I intend to speak with him, but not until I can get all the information. And I don't have the advantage because they have the actual instruments. And why that wasn't revealed in the beginning is beyond me. And more importantly, the gentleman that heard the gunshots was told not to tell anybody that there were gunshots heard. And I don't know if you know the history of this ranch, and I didn't know until I came into this case, and I got into this case by family, friends that asked me to look into this because it was questionable. And there still aren't any answers. And hopefully I'll get down to the bottom of it.
Thank you. That was really good. Thank you. I was just going to ask